Welcome to the making of Smiley's Friends Eclectic, part 1. So the idea for the 13 singers, I wanted to do something different this time because, as I say, it's the 4th, and I certainly didn't. I've been really lucky with the last few albums, and there's always been some special guests, and there's always been some interesting characters pop up in various forms. But I primarily, vocals-wise, stuck with obviously John James Newman and Kerry Shorts being my favourite boy and girl singer. But this time, when I started writing the songs, I wrote them in kind of with other people in mind, not necessarily definite people at the start, but just with the idea. Like the first example, Ian McNabb, the Icicle Works, right? Now, I've loved Ian McNabb since the 80s. Okay, so to write a song with him in mind, that was the first thing, and I actually wrote that song quite quickly, which is No One Counts for Money, and then the process being to try and actually get it to Ian McNabb. Now this was a bit of using him as a guinea pig. Now my dear friend Alan Thompson, who is my muse and everything, because one he's really connected to, he's incredibly bright about music and he's extremely positive, so he helps me, and he had some ins, so we got it to Ian McNabb, and we just basically said, would you sing on this record, on this song? And he said, send me the song. And so we sent him the song and waited, and then for what felt like about a year, but it was actually about 2 days, and he came back and said he loved it and he would do it. So that kind of started the ball rolling, and then sky was the limit. Now, don't get me wrong, kind of that I'm sitting there going, so I asked so and so and they said yes. A lot of people said no, in whatever way, some in a really positive way, some really lovely replies, but a no. Some didn't want to do it, fair enough. But then, because I developed the idea, I obviously was going to give one to John, I was obviously going to give one to Kerry, I was obviously going to give one to Dorry, because she's on all the albums, and that consistency carried on. So once I got Ian, then I thought about who I worked with, so I was on tour with Archive, for instance, and I love Dave Penn. I'm a massive fan of Dave Penn's, and I've always thought I've never had the right track for Dave Penn because he's a really cool guy, and the way he works with Archive and Bird Pen and stuff. And I wrote this song, WikiLeaks Dream, with Graham, obviously, and I had Dave in mind for this kind of chorusy bit, and so I got him drunk one night and said basically, I've drummed on the last 3 Bird Pen albums for you, it's about time you sang on one of my albums. Jokingly, he went, yeah, I'll do it. And so I sent him the track and he really liked the track, but I said to him, don't worry about the verses because I've got someone else in mind. And I didn't tell him it was actually Richard Archer, Hardfire Rich, as he's known to me. I've been working a lot with Richard recently, and we've become really good friends, and I just had this vision of the two of them doing this kind of duet, which is, how cool is that? Hardfire and Archive, right? Surely I couldn't pull that one off. So I sent it to both of them and had to wait ages actually for especially Richard to pull his finger out. But then they came back within kind of days, and it was such an amazing merge of and they both added their own kind of signature to it, and it was just a beautiful moment. And for me, I knew I was rolling, and then I just started thinking, right, who do I work with, who do I like, who do I rate? As Alan Thompson said, if you don't ask, you don't get. So we started asking people, and that's where the flow of singers came in. As I say, the ones I've already told you about, but then there was others. Owen Paul, I've worked with, love Owen, so had to find a relevant song for him. Robert Hart, who was, he's a god. I did Bad Company with Robert Hart, so you can imagine how big, and he's doing Man for Man, Earth Band. Wanted to get him in, and as it was getting towards the end of the album, I needed to get these guys in it, and I was running out of tracks, so I had to make sure, I had to kind of divvy them up and make sure that the right ones went to the right people, and of course we had, the big one was, we've got a cover version on this album, which we've never done before, which is obviously the David Bowie song, which is Moon Age Daydream. And to get the right singer for that, I think about 3 people had a shot at it, but I always wanted an old friend of mine, James Hobbs, who was a big influence for me years ago. He's a Bowie nut, just obsessed. And I always thought, what would it be like to actually get him on it? And so he was the last piece of the jigsaw, and I'd already got a couple of the other guys trying to go at it, and I had it in the bag, but I always thought if James did it, and he did, and it's a great finish to the album, and I've got some brilliant musicians on this record. I'm so honoured, and also there was that sweet little She Said track, and I needed a really pure male voice. I've known Chesley Hawkes for years, and he's just a mate of mine, and so I asked him, and he was in LA, and he just sent it over the next day, and it just sat so good, so clever. Elizabeth Westwood, I needed an American country girl. She's an American country girl, and she just did Mississippi Road Trip like that. So that's where everything fell into place. That's where all the singers, the idea of singers, and after all the singers had said yes, I just started asking more and more musicians, and all those musicians said yes as well. So deeply flattered by it, and you can tell the musicianship has gone up on this record because there's so many. I think there's about 40 musicians on the record, and a 50-piece gospel choir from Wales. See, another thing I found with my newfound Bond villain of being a producer who can bring in anybody. As I don't forget that I said quite a few people said no. Okay, quite a few people asked to be on this record, which was great. But there was obviously a few people who I work with a lot who I assumed, wrongly may I add, that they'll sing a song, right? I'm not going to name any names, Mike Peters, but so Mike said no in a lovely way, and I don't want to sing one, and I thought, man, you're one of my best friends, and I work with you all the time. Okay, I'm going to get something out of you. So there was this, there was a harmonica riff I really wanted, and he is the harmonica king. So I actually used his engineer, Mark Warden, who, and we sneakily waited until Mike was recording a new Alarm song, and as he was doing it, I was on the phone to Mark going, now, drop it now. And he said, oh yeah, Mike, why are you here? Well, just a quick one, could you just play this riff? And I'd sent Mark the riff on a piano, and Mike went, what's that then? He went, no, I just need you to play it. So Mark basically played this da 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 da, and Mike went, what, like this? Da 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 da. Press record. And that's how you get sneaky. So as soon as I got that, I don't think Mike actually knows he's done it actually. But that was a great example. So She Won't Leave You. I needed a rock voice. Right? I needed a rock voice. Now Sammy Blue, Sam. I haven't got time to list how many people Sam's played with, because Sam's one of those voices. Sam, one, is the nicest guy you'll ever meet. So he's got the best rock voice, apart from Robert Hart, and I've got them both. So Sammy was another one that track needed that, and I got Sam in it, and he just brought it to life. And I think that was the point of this record, that playing to people's strengths. You know, No One Counts for Money, as I mentioned earlier, the Ian McNabb thing, I heard Ian McNabb's voice in my head when I was writing that. I even sang the demo in the style of Ian McNabb. I'd never met Ian McNabb until last week, right? And he'd already finished my song, and I went out for dinner with him last week. And what an amazing guy. He'll be my friend for life now. But it was great to see his take on it, and how he stopped his own recording session with the Icicle Works to say, right, I've promised Smiley I'll do this track, and basically put it on in the room, and then proceeded to just layer up vocal. He sent me 12 vocals, and it's astonishing. But I always knew in my head that he was the man for that track, and I think it was the same with that. I always knew that Anyone Anywhere would be Dory, because Dory's got such an emotional voice. I always knew Beautiful was going to be Kerry, In fact, Kerry was, I think she was right at the end. I just kept saying, will you come and do this track? She didn't do it for ages, but I always knew that she would. Always knew John James Newman, well, John James Newman could sing the phone book and make it sound great, but she won't leave it. Oh no, what did she, I can't remember what track John did. Today's alright. Today's alright. That's right. It's only because I changed the time. In fact, no. Sorry, Graham changed the time. When John comes in to record vocals, it's like the best evenings of your life, because John comes in and basically with a carrier bag that clinks and proceeds to get drunk together and just comes up with the best vocals and the best backing vocals, and he's such a great bloke, and I love spending time with him. So that's basically the recording process, especially from a singer's point of view. But I had to steal some musicians, you know. I had to nag Dale Davis because he was on tour. I think he was doing Paul Young at the time, and I nagged him for months for Turn Around Mr. Nelson. And if you listen to that, if you're a musician, listen to the bass line on Turn Around Mr. Nelson, because that is just, it's poetic genius, an artistic expression at the highest, and I can't think of any more big words. So yeah, to every musician who played on this record, I am truly grateful. Thank you very much. And for any musician who wants to be on the next album, well, give me a call.
She's so fashioned, so